Brought to you exclusively by Abu Garcia.
How you doing, everybody? I got an Ike Live logo on my face. Just give me a second, and I'll get that off of there. How you doing? I hope you're having a wonderful evening, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. Welcome to a brand new Ike Live show, guys, and I have a good one for you tonight. Really, really good one. Interesting topic. We're going to be talking a little bit about bass fishing journalism tonight, and I've got two of the best journalists in the business on tonight. And there's Becky. Hi, Beck. Oh, hold on one second, guys. Beck's having a panic attack. Should have put it live on Instagram, but I think we're going live right now on Instagram. Okay, there you have it. Guys, we got a great one for you tonight. Jay Kumar, Brian Brasher joining us to talk about bass fishing journalism. It's going to be an interesting topic. I can't wait to talk to these guys about it. This show is brought to you by Abu Garcia, the maker of great rods and reels. Head on over to abugarcia.com. Check out some of the products they've got, especially the Ike Series 3.0 rods and reels, now available over on Tackle Warehouse as well. So check that out. Also brought to you by the Ike Foundation, trying to get new kids fishing. If you want to help get some information on how to get kids fishing, head on over to ikefoundation.org. Also had a note here from Becky that the scholarship banquet tickets are already available. No, it's not until the end of January, but if you want to get a ticket, a seat, a table, come on out for a great night. We're going to be raising money for kids' scholarships. And this year, and Jay Kumar might even know this band, we have Don't Call Me Francis joining us live band this year. It's going to be really fun. Good food, good drinks, good camaraderie. Go to the ikefoundation.org to get your tickets. Last but not least, I do have this. Let me see if I can show you. That right there, guys, is actually that right there is actually a sign, and that sign was created by John Horn. Pretty amazing sign there. His website is centralstatedesigns.com. John can make a cool light-up sign, any logo you have. If you're interested, see John Horn at centralstatedesigns.com. Thank you, John. It's a great sign. All right. Had enough of that. We're going to put these guys in. Joining us now, officially on Ike Live, we've got Brian Brasher and Jay Kumar joining us. What's up, guys?
What's up?
How you doing, Jay? How you doing? Jay's just looking at us. Isn't that great?
What
yo,
are you
Jay.
doing to us, Jay?
Turn that phone down, Jay. Oh, he's going to log off. We'll get him back on here in a second. Let's try again. Jay, can you hear me?
Who can't hear anything?
Still can't hear anything. All right, keep trying, Jay. We're going to get you. Brian, do you think it's funny that Jay's driving and we're comfortable in our homes and he's driving?
Well, if you'd gotten me 5 minutes earlier, I would have been in the same situation. So I'm not going to criticize him. It's Thanksgiving Eve, man. It's a time to be out.
It is. Thanksgiving Eve is a big party night, and I want you to go back in your youth, Brian, and talk to me. Was it a big party night where you grew up? Like, I remember being, in my late teens, early 20s, in that era where you're socializing and partying, and I always remember Thanksgiving Eve being like the big party night. Was it the same for you?
There's a band famous locally here called the Velcro Pygmies. And that was our Thanksgiving Eve entertainment every year. I mean, we were out till 2:30 in the morning. We got up and turkey was our hangover food. So yeah, it was always a big party night. And if I weren't doing this, I left the club a little bit ago. Charles Barkley was on his way there. And I said, no, I got to go do Ike Live. So, that's what I gave up for this, but I'm glad to be here.
Well, we appreciate it. Couldn't think of anyone better to have on the show to talk about this topic tonight. Let's see if we get Jay back on. Jay, how you doing? Can you hear us yet? Can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I'm literally in the car with my entire family. I would be backseat driving, but my son's doing that next to my wife who's driving. So if we get in an accident, it's because she's driving.
Okay. Wow. That's a lot of pressure.
It's crazy.
That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure. Now, Jay,
What's up, Brian B. Brasher?
How is it going, Jay Kumar?
Hey, congrats on being the Bassmaster editor, my man. That's awesome.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I'm terrified, but I'm gonna try not to mess it up.
That's a really big deal. I think people heard the announcement. People assume, just the next editor in chief, no big deal. But is it true you're only the fourth in the history of Bass? Is that true?
Yeah, that's the terrifying part of it. And you think about Bob Cobb, Dave Preck, James Hall. These are guys. People retire from that position. They don't quit. They don't move on. James has, in fact, moved on to a different position in the company. But yeah, 4 in 56 years. That makes it frightening. So, but to have a new challenge at age 51, you don't get that opportunity too many times. So it's frightening, but it's rejuvenating as well.
Right. It's got to be. You mentioned some names, Brian, classic names. If you are a student of the sport, if you're a fan of the sport, you mentioned some names that everyone knows who happen to be amazing journalists in their own right. Jay, I want to throw it to you. Who else would you put on the list of bass fishing writers, bass fishing journalists that have been the biggest names in bass fishing?
Oh, I mean, they're all at BASS. I mean, or were. Dave Freck for sure, Matt Vincent, Tim Tucker. I would say just about every Bassmaster that ever, at least the older ones. And there were some, independent guys too. But man, those were the Matt Vincent. Did I say Matt or not?
You did.
From Old Bass Times editor. Like those guys were straight up journalists. Like they had the training, they had standards. You had to meet those standards. Of course, all that stuff is out the window now, except maybe for Brian. But in the larger media world, that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. I've got a list here. Everyone you named was on that list. I've got a couple of the Minnesota guys, the Linders, Steve Quinn. Homer Circle is a classic.
Oh, yes.
I mean, there's so many classic guys. But you actually mentioned something, Jay. Talk about that. You said the old style. And Brian, I want you to chime on this too. Was there what was that? I mean, was there a certain criteria you had to have to achieve that access in the sport to get to the level of those guys we were talking about, Louis Stout, the classic writers of the sport? What did they expect that you had? What did you have that put you in that bracket?
You had to be trained. You do. You still got.
We got you,
Everybody
Jay.
just locked.
We got you.
If you can hear me, you had to have training. You had to know what journalism was and how to put sentences together, whether you're on camera or writing stuff down. You had to get things done on time. You had to meet your obligations, like all the things that you would have to do for anything. Like, this, Mike, like to be a pro fisherman back when you started and won your classic and everything versus now, it's night and day, dude. Same thing here, I would say. What do you say, Brian?
Oh, I think that's true. Yeah, I mean, anywhere I look now, I look at the website here in town, al.com, that we use for all of our news, certainly sports news on my part. And the instant I see something spelled wrong in a headline, I'm out for the day. And it's just about every day. That those are things that I would have been fired for, that you and I would have been fired for back in the day, and they're just expected now. And that is, it's really bothersome to me. I know someone like Dave Precht, he's sitting somewhere and it's driving him crazy when he sees that. So it just was not accepted back in the day, and now we just put up with it.
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy. The world has
Yeah.
definitely changed a lot. The world has definitely changed. In in my time in the sport, I've seen the world change a lot. When it comes from the media side and the journalism side, I've seen it change. Uh, did you? This is questions for both of you guys. Did in your wildest dreams, did you ever expect a time when the movies that you watched, sci-fi movies that you watched when you were younger, are actually coming true? The Terminator, John Carpenter's They Live, The Matrix, all this shit's coming true, guys. Are you surprised?
A little
Not if you
bit.
read. Yeah.
It it you know, at one time with AI, you would read something into AI and it would come out like it was translated from Chinese. There would be words missing, extra words thrown in. Now it's frightening. My dad sold a depth finder on eBay a while back, and he just read the description of the depth finder, not a detailed description, but it wrote basically a description that you would get out of the Humminbird catalog. That's frightening. That's frightening that you can do that. It's sort of frightening to me in the same way when I get in, if I ever do get into a driverless Uber, that's scary to me. I don't
Scary.
trust that yet. And here we are trusting machines to do our writing for us,
Yeah.
and no machine is going to outright Louis Stout, Steve Price, Don
Right.
Worth, and here we are. We have people who think, who just don't know that. They don't know the difference, and that bothers me. It scares me. It really does.
Yeah,
Mm.
it is scary. It is very scary. Do you think some of that has to do with the new consumer's age and the way that the information they're consuming has changed? Like for me, I just want to go back when I was 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, and I was crazy about fishing. Not just bass fishing, but fishing. The only way I could consume it was through magazines and through newspapers and through TNN on the weekends. And, there was this very static way in which I consumed information. But, now we're talking 30, 40, 40 years later, and people are consuming different. Does that have a lot to do with the way people perceive good writing from generic writing? Jay?
Yeah, I mean, my answer would be two steps back from that, which is that, like, you're when you first posed this question, Mike, I'm like, what is journalism? Because
Right.
people throw that word around a lot, but from my training, and I'm sure Brian's, it doesn't really exist anymore. Like, I stopped watching the so-called news like 15 years ago because I watched it go from what I thought was objective to um, one-sided, and then to advocacy after, which is where it is now. And listen, if you're 20 something years old, you've never seen it different. You
Right.
don't know what that is, like you were talking about 30, 40 years ago.
Right.
And so I think, like, people have been trained up to accept, like, you're born into whatever world you're born into. If you're blind
Right.
in one eye, that's just your reality. You don't know what
Right.
it's like to see with two eyes, right?
Right.
And I think that's what it is. People just kind of accept it as like, oh, okay, this is the way the world is. And the question is, well, is it, better or worse off than it used to be? And I would
Right.
argue, in large part, it's not a good thing, man. Kind of the
Right.
way the information distribution and consumption is gone.
Yeah.
And I say that as somebody who's been in digital from the get-go. But you have a responsibility, man. You can't just be chasing clicks or views or whatever, in my opinion, anyway.
Right.
And it's absolutely not the apparatus that you read it from. I mean, you can get quality journalism from digital just as well as you ever could from print. You just have to consider the source. And one thing you'll notice with your sources is, are they asking the right questions? I'll give you an example. I covered 2015, the tournament on Gunnersville. You led it for 3 days, and you kept saying, I'm running out of fish. I'm running out of fish. I'm out of ideas. Well, on the fourth day, you ran out of fish. And Skeet and Byron Velvick, of course, went past you with the Bass Tricks swim bait. And I talked to Skeet and got the winter story. And then I thought, you know what? This story is just not going to be complete unless I talk to Ike. And I don't want to talk to Ike because he led this thing for 3 days. And now he kind of petered out on the final day, and I don't want to do that, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's the right thing to do. And so many journalists these days are just lazy when it comes to that right thing. And I think when you notice that, if you know what to look for and you notice that, that's the one you steer away from. But how many people know it, Jay? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, a lot don't. They don't know enough to ask the insightful question sometimes. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, what's journalism? Is journalism interviewing somebody and putting it on, camera or on tape or writing it down? I mean, I don't think so. And I'm not saying I do it anymore either. Like I did do it with Bass Fan 100%. But now, maybe not, but I absolutely know what it is, and I recognize the good stuff for what it is, and the bad stuff for what it is. So I think what you're saying, Brian, is be discerning. Don't just accept what you're seeing as the best or okay, and I mean that's everything, man. That's how new fishing lures get invented and everything else. People just don't want to be accepting of exactly what it is. They want to tweak it somehow.
Right.
So just follow that, and with a discerning eye, and I think that'll be I don't know, better.
Yeah. Is it an age where writers and journalists have to adapt and adjust the way they deliver information? And I want to ask that because, Jay, you've done a great job with your current project with Bass Blaster. Amazing job. Brian, BASSmaster, has done an amazing job transferring a lot of this stuff to the digital world. Do you have to do that today as an outdoor writer, outdoor journalist, to stay relevant? Do you have to do that?
Do what exactly, Mike?
Not just write the words on a paper, in a book, in a magazine. Do you have to adapt to digital properties now? Podcasting, lives, blogs. Is that a must to be relevant today?
I mean, I'll answer that this way, and then Brian, take it from there. But my mom's dad was a famous novelist in his day. Right? He was wrote for the Saturday Evening Post, hung around in the south of France, did all that stuff. That's back when Hemingway and all those guys were the rock stars, right? It wasn't Van Halen, it wasn't George Clooney, it was the guys who wrote books. They were the rock stars, right? Not going to be that way now, right? The medium changed. The style changed. Like if you read one of my grandfather's novels, it would be painfully tough to get through, and you would probably not enjoy it. At least I didn't. So like I think the style changed and the medium changed, and therefore, yeah, you gotta. Now, I'm not saying people can't make a living writing, because they clearly do for Brian, the guys that he has writing, and they're darn good at it. But I would say that is going to be the exception for the most part. And then Brian also has a rock solid magazine. It's not some fly-by-night thing that might not be here in 3 years, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
anyway, that's how I would answer it.
Yeah, I would love to wake up Sunday morning in that world where I have to go out and get the newspaper out of the yard before daylight to get the wrap up of the Alabama Auburn game. It's not going to happen. It's going to be there. Immediacy is so important in today's world. People want it right now. And we see that when we're writing gamers for Bassmaster. You know, we got to get it out there quickly, or it becomes old news so fast. And but then if you can find a way to blend them, and I think Kumar has done such a fantastic job with Bass Blaster of giving you. I mean, he's using print media, but he's doing some one-stop shopping type stuff for you, giving you a newsletter that combines all of that, all of the news that he finds anywhere, whether it's a record on OHIV, something that happened with bass, and he puts it all into a digital format and sends it to you. So he's found a way to mesh those things. And I think Bassmaster has done a great job with that. You know, with young people like Kyle Jesse, Ronnie Moore doing podcasts, we have multimedia clips all the time, working on social media. Laura AG does a fantastic job with that. You got to have all of it. You have to have every piece of it now, or you're behind.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. And what comes to mind is, and Jay, you said it really well, you know, that the world's changed, the medium's changed. But, you know, I think maybe I'm oversimplifying this, but I think for a lot of people, and maybe the younger people, right? Maybe the people that don't remember reading Bassmaster magazine or the newspapers or the books. They don't remember that time. I think there's an overload of generic information now. And I've got a 13-year-old son, so I kind of watch what he does. I watch what he watches and reads and listens to. And he's reading like a lot of this very generic content that he can't decipher the information. Brian, I want to throw it to you because I love the article on bassmaster.com that just recently, like within a week or so, and it was "Beware of the Wannabes."
Yeah.
Was the title. Talk a little bit about that. I think that was a great article for me because it hit home. Are we losing with the ease of reaching people through all these different new mediums? Are we losing people with the good information?
No question about it. No question about it. We used to consider if we saw our buddy on TV for 10 seconds, that was a lifetime experience. That was, I mean, we're never going to see that again. Well, now you see it every day, 10 times a day if they want to be there. And we sort of confuse that with the way it used to be. One of the lines I used in that column was anybody with a Wi-Fi connection and a cheap camera they bought off Amazon can be a podcaster. And do you consider that person an expert just because they're in front of a camera? Or do you actually listen to the content and ask yourself, where did they get this? I mean, who do they know? Why should they know anything about this? And I don't think enough people actually ask themselves that question. Why should I be listening to this guy? You know, Ike won a classic. Okay, I'm going to listen to him. Dave Mercer, he's the MC at Bassmaster. I'm going to listen to him. Christian Trate Zaldane. But then you have so many who you just wonder, why do people care what these people have to say? I've been in it 30 years. I've won some awards and done some good things, and I still wonder why people care what I have to say. So you know, these folks, the way I painted them was dangerous. You know, you got your 13-year-old out there, and I know he's a smart kid, but kids are impressionable too. Adults 3 times his age are impressionable sometimes. So how do they discern? And it's a big problem. It really, really is.
Yeah. Does that bother you, Jay? I want to get your opinion on it too. You've got people going to YouTube and hearing from a guy in a tournament jersey that's in his basement doing a YouTube video, getting as many or more views than you and I get, Jay, on our stuff. So does that bother you, or does it not? Can't hear you, Jay. I lost you for a second. I think you got your mute on.
Sorry, man. You got me?
No, that's all right. Yep, I got you.
Yeah, no, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me because, you know, a couple reasons. One is that it's like being bothered by, you know, oxygen. Like it's everywhere. You can't really do anything about it. and then the other thing is the algorithms of these social media channels, including YouTube, they favor controversy and negative comments and all that well-known fact. And I'm not going there, you know. And listen, I've seen the one thing I've been flabbergasted by is guys who do that, and God bless them, man. I have no hard feelings or bitterness toward any of these guys, you know, getting views or whatever. All good, as long as, you know, you're not being a jerk or, you know, saying or doing weird stuff. But I've seen guys talk about controversy in bass fishing, pro bass fishing at the top. They have never spoken to a pro. They have never made a phone call to get anybody's perspective. And they do like 10, 11, 12 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever it is on this issue. They're getting, you know, 20-something thousand views. And I'm like, what for? Like they're essentially verbalizing some news that somebody else did, or, you know, Bassmaster issued a press release on forward-facing sonar or whatever, and then they give a couple 2 cents, and then I'm like, wow, you know. So it's not that the people who watch that stuff, they don't want good information, in my judgment. They just want somebody who's going to read the news to them, or what they think is the news.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I don't want to do that. You know, if somebody else wants to read the news, Yahoo, you know, go ahead. So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, that's a good point of view. I did want to jump back, and I don't remember if it was Jay or Brian, if whoever mentioned AI, and I do want to talk about that. I want to give you just 2 examples from what I've had happen, and the one is, you know, I mentioned at the top of the show, we do a scholarship every year, and we actually give away 5 scholarships to young, you know, graduating high school seniors that have a love and interest in the outdoors, and they're going to further education, and, you know, there's a process of submitting an application and, you know, saying why you deserve the scholarship. And we've had a heck of a time the last few years of getting AI Chat GPT style resumes in, you know, and the ladies in the foundation have sort of figured out a way to sniff it out, but it blew me away when I heard that. And then just this year, I kind of discovered a few channels, YouTube channels, that were doing videos, a few of them that were then doing blogs that were basically, I could tell sort of the way it was written, that they were taking like my shop videos, throwing them into the AI machine, and spitting them back out and claiming that stuff as their own. You know,
oh boy.
It's crazy to me that this is gone on. But I want you guys, give me your opinion on that, on AI, on ChatGPT, on this ability. You mentioned, Brian, your dad. Like, this is getting out of hand. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, again, it's the kind of thing that Jay and I back in the day would have been fired for. I mean, if we lifted a quote from someone else's story and our editors figured out that wasn't a quote we gathered, we're gone. Yeah, I mean, it just wasn't done. And we used the word scary before. Like you said, your people are sniffing it out right now. It's going to get harder and harder to sniff it out because AI is going to get better and better. And will it ever replace genuine human? I mean, you want to know when like we get the Bassmaster High School All-American resumes. Now, I'm sure there's some of that going on with them as well. we want to know who these kids are. And are we figuring that out from AI? Probably not. So it's a real problem. But I again, at the same time, I think it can be like forward facing sonar. Instead of taking the place of everything you do, it can be a new weapon in your arsenal. I mean, we use it at Bass. The column you mentioned, Beware the Wannabes, we needed an illustration for that. We typed in, and I'll just say what we typed in, idiot doing a bass fishing podcast, and it generated that illustration. So
it was a picture of me. Jay, would you believe it?
Oh, I guarantee it was not you. I won't tell you who it was, but I guarantee it was not you. But so it can be very helpful. Should it replace your thought process? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And it was interesting, Jay. I want to get your take on it too, but it was interesting. So I did like a test, and for tonight's show, I typed in the AI machine. I typed in, "Is bass fishing journalism dead?" The first comment that came back was it thought it was bass. So it started talking about the bass guitar. I thought that was funny. But then once I righted the ship, dude, the questions it provided me to ask you guys were awesome. And I was like, I'm not using these. These are too good. I kind of threw it away. But the one comment that did come through at the bottom that I wrote a note on, and you know, it comes in a series of, like, it was numbered. Had like 17 questions and quotes based on that. Is bass fishing journalism dead? And the one said, bass fishing journalism is a niche journalism interest. I thought that was interesting that came out. But Jay, give me your take on this whole robotic, unpersonalized form of writing, computerized writing.
Yeah, I mean, well, listen, my kids are in college, and they're some of their professors are bonkers, man. They're out of their freaking minds, those people. But they're literally encouraging them to use AI to write stuff with, and I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, don't do that. Like, that's so stupid. That's never going to serve you well. Yeah, I might be dead wrong, but that's what I'm telling them. And yeah, I don't, in our niche, like that AI said, I mean, of course that's right. Of course we're a niche, but everything is now. Politics is a niche that overflows the dam every 4 years or whatever, but it's still a niche. Meaning they have like websites and this and that addressing only politics. That's it. It's not the national so-called news. It's other stuff. But I don't think it makes it in our world, man. I really don't. Like, I don't think, to Brian's point about, asking the right questions. I mean, listen, that's one of the things. Like, if I still don't know if I'm asking as good questions as Louis Stout or Tim Tucker would have, or Steve Price, you know what I mean? And I've been in this a long time too. Or for that matter, will I ever know as much as Al Lindner about fishing? Absolutely not. Not in a million zillion years, So it's that I think that humility to know that, you got to keep learning. And yeah, of course, AI is going to learn, but man, they will never have that. They'll never be standing in a boat, man. The AI, as far as we know, anyway, Right. And you got to have that. It's like somebody, you could plug in all this AI all you want, and yeah, it'll sound right and it'll be sort of right, but you bass fish, Mike, and you bass fish, Brian, and you'll see through that stuff, man. You really will, I think.
And the first question might be right that it gives you, but you'll lose that flow. One of the most gifted interviewers I've ever stood next to is Steve Wright, who works for Bassmaster. I mean, just brilliant conversationalist. And so many of his best questions were the second or third question feeding off the first answer. And do you get that from AI? I don't think you do. I don't see how you ever do. So something to think about.
Yeah, it definitely lacks the feeling. Like I know the ladies, start sniffing them out a little bit, and the one comment they say about all of them is they lack that genuine personal feeling. You're reading something that's flat and generic, and there's no personalized feeling in it as you read it. So maybe you're right. Maybe it will never take over totally. Maybe it can't because it's missing that. But it's still scary, right? It's still a scary thing. Do you guys agree? Let's just come to agreement. Is AI bad in the bass fishing journalist world, in the media world? Is AI bad? Would you say yes or no?
I'm going to say it's bad. Period. That's my attitude.
I would say it's bad. I think it's bad.
Yeah, I think if it disappeared off the face of the earth tomorrow, we'd probably be better off for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Now I'm gonna turn this and change a different direction. And I want you guys. This is Ike Live. I want you to be honest with me.
Here we go.
I really believe in my soul, and this is Ike Live. You have to be honest, and you have to give your opinion. This is my opinion. I equate AI, what it's doing in the media world, the photography world, the illustration world, right? I equate that with exactly what forward-facing sonar is doing in the fishing world. Okay, now, just take a second and think about it. And in my opinion, it's the same thing, right? It's taking away that personal connection with figuring out the fish. It's such a unbelievable tool to get you there that it takes away from being a really good fisherman, being a really good journalist, a really good illustrator, photographer. It's taking away that art of what that means. Jay, I know you've been kind of right in the middle. Brian, I know you've been vocal about thinking it's okay, and I value your guys' opinion. But is there a connection there? Is AI like forward-facing sonar? Are they one and the same? Jay, you want to start?
Yeah, it's an interesting point of view, and I can see why you would think that, Mike. I would say, like, for me, what forward-facing sonar and AI have in common, at least this is what popped into my head as you're talking, is that they take a lot of work out of the to get the end result. And for me, in my opinion, that's where everything comes from. Like that, all this hard work that you do, whatever your profession is, or maybe you play sport in school or whatever it is, that's how you get instincts, is through this work and failing and succeeding and failing and succeeding. And by in the fishing analogy, I'm not talking about winning and losing, right? Like losing isn't failing. Failing is trying to figure something out and you hit a dead end and you got to make a left or a right and you go that way. And so the shortcuts, I don't think, like, I'm thinking of course, I always think of these guys, Eddie Van Halen, right? I think of that. And if somebody got like a chip from Elon Musk in their brain to play as good as him right from the jump, no 10, 20, 30 years of figuring stuff out on your own and grinding through clubs and being disappointed by, not getting this record deal or whatever, is it going to be as good? Is it going to be as, amazing? The notes would be the same, right? The end result would be the same.
Right.
But would it be the same? I don't think it's like a little, if you ever see like these piano prodigies and they'll play Beethoven when they're like 7. I mean, come on, man. Okay, they can play all the notes and they can mimic the, getting louder, getting softer thing. But man, when you've been playing that stuff for 40 friggin' years or 20 years,
yeah,
it's totally different. And that's the only way I can see the similarity there. You got to have, the work is the most beautiful part of everything, right?
Yeah.
The disappointments, the highs, the lows, the whole thing. taking that out, I think, is bad for everybody and everything.
Yeah, that's a good thought on it, Brian. I'd love to get your opinion. By the way, I have a keyboard here in the studio, and I could play "Mary Had a Little Lamb." That's the only thing I could play on the keyboard. It's actually a Casio keyboard. I don't know if you remember these things from like the late '80s. I somehow acquired one, so
Nice.
I have a keyboard here in the studio. Uh, Brian, give me your opinion on it. And again, this is just this is just my thought on it. But is there any equation between forward-facing sonar in its use in the top professional ranks of bass fishing and a guy using AI to achieve the top standard, the top level of viewership, and people reading his stuff using AI? Is there any analogy there? Is there any similarity?
Boy, this is the part where I wish I had just gone out for Thanksgiving Eve. It's the obvious answer is yes. I mean, you can't deny the similarities there. Jay made a great point about replacing some of the work. I know the work that you guys have put in. I talk to Matt Herron quite often. He reminds me how long it took him to learn what he's doing. I was in the newspaper business for a long time, and people tell me, when I hear people say, you don't know what it's like to spend 25 years working to learn and master something and then have someone come in and replace you with a computer. I don't know what it's like. What are you talking about? I was in the newspaper business and I watched the digital age take over. So yeah, you can equate those two things. I think there's absolutely something that I won't say it cheapens it. It changes it for sure. It's a shortcut. The question I always ask everybody with forward facing sonar is, while you were putting in those 20, 30 years of work, if you'd had forward facing sonar, would you have turned your nose up at it? Would you have not used it instead? I mean, would you have decided to do that work instead? So, and you get some sideways answers, kind of like the one I'm giving you now. But you can definitely equate those two things. My dad is a master at triangulation. He can line up on a hump on a lake in a 10-foot John boat by getting with that window and that tree and that point. He'll put you right on it faster than you could get on it with a depth finder. Would he be able to do that if he had had forward-facing sonar and just the electronics in general that we have now? Probably not. But would he need to? So I don't know. It's different. Is it bad? I don't know. For us old schoolers, probably so. But for these young folks who have it available to them and have never lived in a world where it wasn't available to them,
right?
I don't think you can say it's bad.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there's your political season answer for you.
It was a good answer. It was a good answer. And as long as the top professional leagues are allowing it, those guys are doing nothing wrong, right? They're
Right.
Like you said, they're utilizing a technology that is legal. And so I think the question's bigger than that, and that's a whole different show. But I appreciate your guys' honest perspective on it. To me, it's AI. To me, it's not true fishing. But time will tell, I'm sure. Guys, by the way, I wanted to let you guys know we have 456 people watching with some amazing comments. I want to thank everybody for commenting. As we've been discussing here, we've had some great ones. I saw several people talk about local journalism has been lost. I heard somebody chime in that they had a relative fired from a newspaper, and, the times are changing. I saw one come through that I wanted to from Trout West. So Trout West is obviously not his real name, but his comment on just so opposite from what we've been talking about. Trout West says, I'd rather listen to the struggling YouTube angler than a millionaire pro sponsored angler any day. The novice is who most anglers are. No special gear, no special boat, just the drive to fish. Trout West, thank you for that opinion. It's an interesting opinion. And from a sponsorship perspective, I get that because pros are sort of tainted, right? To a certain degree, I guess. Do you find any validity in Trout West's comment, Jay? I want to start with you because you talk to pros every single day. It seems like you're dropping newsletters every single day. Is there less validity in a pro that's been fishing for 30 years than a guy that is fishing from his garage?
Well, no, absolutely. Yeah, that's crazy talk. Sorry, Trout West. I mean, I think it goes to how you're wired, man. You know, like, again, I'll go to I used to play in bands. Like, I wanted to be the best I could. I wanted to see the best I could. And if I walked into a place, there's one time when that Alice in Chains was opening up for this other band I went to see. And the guitar player in the other band was George Lynch, who still is a phenomenal guitar player. Alice in Chains was not a big band at the time. And I sat there in the front row with my arms crossed, watching this guy play, the Alice in Chains guitarist. And I must have had this look on my face like, you suck, you know? And the guy, when I went to go to the can later on, the guy smashed me. Like, the guitar player who's in the audience, he came over, he like he shouldered me right in the chest. I was bigger than him, but whatever. But my point is, in telling that, is like, I wanted to see the best, and I wanted to be the best, and I wanted to figure out how they did it because I wanted to learn how to do it. And if you're wired that way, people like you, Mike, forget it. That's it. You will eat up every second of live. You will read every word of Bassmaster. You will do it all, But if you're not like that and you just want to go out and seine the water with your favorite bait, yahoo, that's fine. That's awesome. That's great to do it. But I think we're talking two different kinds of people,
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. And, for me, I mentioned it early in the show, but Bassmasters was my resource,
Yeah.
And I did, Jay, I did. I lived on every word. I lived on recording the TNN shows. Brian, I'm sure you remember the VHS era, and I recorded them, and I would pause it, rewind, pause it. Like, I was that hardcore, but I wanted to see and hear from the guys that were the very best in the world. I wanted to know from Denny and Biffle and Klein and Klund, like, they were the guys, So it's interesting. I think you're right, though. I think the different people have different opinions on it. I want to sort of get to the end here and talk about, I've got a lot of people and some questions tonight coming through, but a lot of people watch this podcast. They're aspiring pro anglers, right? They're high school, college kids. They're middle-aged guys that want to fish for a living. But I have a lot of other people that come on this podcast, and they want to get in the industry. They want to be involved in fishing. They want to be a writer. They want to be a journalist. They want to have a podcast, have a newsletter. I want both of you. I'm curious. I want to hear from both of you guys. How do they prepare, right? If there's high school, college kids listening and say, God, I want to write for Bassmasters one day. I want to work for Jay one day. What do they need to be doing? How do they need to be preparing? What do they need to do to make it in bass fishing journalism? Brian, let's start with you.
Let us know you're interested first. I mean, people think sometimes that we have this wall that you can never kick down. We're desperate for help in a lot of situations. We have interns now working for us doing what we call keywording photos. We get 25,000 photos in from one tournament, and we have to put names. This is Ike, this is Patrick Walters, so that we can search those photos later. Well, that's what we call grunt work, but it's terribly important. And when you come in and prove that you can do that, then we're going to let you do something else. And then I started out in the newspaper business answering phones And that got me a promotion to working 2:30 to 5:30 in the mornings for $5 an hour before taxes. And I acted as if this was the greatest thing, man. This is what I've always wanted to do. And yeah, you want me to cover that high school wrestling match? Yes, absolutely. I want that. So, first of all, reach out to the businesses, not just Bass, not just MLF, Skeeter, any of the companies that you might want to work for. Reach out to them, let them know that you want to work for them. And when they say, yeah, we got a job, but you probably have to sweep the floors when you're done this evening, say, hey, I've always wanted to sweep the floors at Skeeter. That's been my dream. And approach it like that. And great things happen. People recognize we've had some of the best interns you can imagine, and they all want to be in the industry. And I always repeat to them the line that Fishburne, of all people, said to me years ago: the best job you can get in fishing is one that doesn't require you to ever catch a fish. And that's what they should take to heart. Go in knowing if you want a job in the fishing industry, get a job in the fishing industry. It might not involve going out and fishing 200 days a year,
Right.
But be willing and be excited, whatever the job is.
Yeah, good point. And I'd like to say that there are still young people that have that work ethic. I think
Yes,
it's
there
too
are.
easy today to say, oh, it's the new generation of kids. Though I think there's a lot of kids that still have a good work ethic. So that's a great point. Jay, give me some pointers for these guys. They wanna do what you guys are doing. How should they prepare? What should they be doing to get there where you guys are at?
Well,
Besides getting in a fight at a rock concert.
Never hurts. Never hurts.
Yeah. Here's what I would say. Well, first of all, realize, I don't know about you guys, but it's become clear to me finally, I guess, I'm probably late to this party too, that most of the people coming into the bass fishing business fished in college, right? A lot of them are.
A lot.
But what they see, like, okay, I can either fish or work for a tackle company or whatever, that kind of thing. And I'm like, listen, I don't know who needs to hear this, but there are many other jobs, in the fishing business, a rep group, media, look at all the media that's out there. You can make a living in media. And back in the day, that was what everybody wanted to do. And now I think people have sort of not realized that it's a way to do it. So the things that I would say are, work on your skills. Like Brian talked about, interview people. You don't care what it's for. Interview your grandparents, interview the wrestling guy, take assignments for anything, because you're building up your skills. You're learning how to, like I was telling my daughter the other day, she's a communication major. And I'm like, there's an art to keeping an interview going, not letting it get off the rails, not letting it go too long, all this other stuff that we're dancing around here, us three, understanding the timing of everybody talking and what everybody wants to say. Like, you gotta get experience with that. And then I would say, there are younger people with a great work ethic, but they are the minority by far, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But have a great work ethic. Don't complain. Don't get impatient. Don't think that you're, if you had snowplow parents, that they're going to help you in life past, school. Like, don't do that. You just humbly work your butt off. Do not get an ego because you get to interview Mike Iaconelli or Kevin Van Dam or Patrick Walters or whoever. Do not get an ego. They are not your friends. You're doing you're in business. You're doing something professional. So act that way,
Yeah.
But I would say work ethic, humility, no ego, and work on those skills, man. I mean, just because you have a podcast and you turn on a camera, believe me, like, all right, your first podcast and your 110th podcast are going to be night and day different, just from skills. you know.
Oh yeah.
So that, and then realize that you can work for Brian. You know, we're hiring our first young person after looking for like 8 years for somebody, you know, like
wow.
understand that there are, that this is a way to, you know, work in this business.
Yeah. Great advice. And it's funny you said about the podcast thing. So this is 11 years of Ike Live, and
Come on.
11 years. I know. It's pretty amazing. But one of our first guests ever, I think it was like show number 2, was Randy Howe. And we're in the studio here, and, you know, we had the whole crew here. And boy, I don't think we asked a question for like 40 minutes. Randy just kept, you know, Randy controlled the podcast. It was amazing. It was a great learning experience. You know, I didn't know, you know. So I think that was a good point too, Jay, right? You got to engage in it. You got to do it. You got to keep doing it to get better. So it's a great point. Guys, I wanted to thank you for coming on tonight, but I have a bigger thank you, which is thank you guys for the friendship, and thank you guys for having the opportunity to work with you over the years. Like, I don't want to live on nostalgia, but I'm so lucky to have worked with you guys in an era when bass fishing journalist was, in my opinion, journalism was pure. It was a written word. It was a really cool time from the mid 90s, you know, the next 10 or 15 years. It was so awesome getting to work with you guys during those years. So thank you guys for that. Thank you guys for that. I really appreciate that. You guys were always really nice and treated me really good, and that means a lot. Thank you guys for doing that.
Yeah. Brian, it sounds like Mike's retiring.
Yes. Hey, are we getting a scoop here? I'll take it.
Hold on a second. Oh, wait, I got some dust in my eye here. Hold on. No big announcement yet, guys. But if you tune into the next Ike Live, there'll be an announcement about an announcement coming later in the year about a big announcement. So just keep watching these shows, guys.
I like that.
Guys, thank you both for coming on. It is Thanksgiving Eve. I appreciate you carving out time. It was such a cool, interesting topic. Couldn't think of 2 better guys to have on to discuss it. And Thanksgiving's tomorrow. I hope you guys have a blessed day. Have a wonderful day with your families. Jay, Brian, thank you guys for coming on the show. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Bless you.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys. See you soon.
Yeah.
I love it, guys. I hope you enjoyed that one as much as I did. I love these Ike Live shows where we get off of the traditional topics a little bit. And this is one that popped in my mind. Then I saw Brian's article on BassMaster.com, and I was like, we have to do this show. What better guys to talk to than 2 of the absolute aces in bass fishing journalism? So shout out to Brian and Jay for coming on tonight on Thanksgiving Eve to talk about that. And thank you to all our viewers. At one point, we had about 530 live viewers tonight. Yay! Appreciate you guys. Even Trout West, we appreciate you. We appreciate all the comments on this show. So thank you for tuning in. Want to remind you that it is brought to you by Abu Garcia. Head on over to abugarcia.com. Check out the brand new Ike Series 3.0 rods and reels. Available right now at Tackle Warehouse. Guys, they make great Christmas gifts. I'm telling you. Also brought to you by the Ike Foundation. Wherever you're watching or listening, man, if you want to help grow the sport, get new kids fishing. Please, please get new kids fishing. Head over to the IkeFoundation.org. We got great information on there how to get new kids fishing. And if you live in the tri-state area, end of January, we're having the Ike Foundation Scholarship Dinner. Don't Call Me Francis. Live band this year, guys. Food, music, drinks, a lot of camaraderie. Get a seat, get a table, get a ticket. It's going to be great prizes and stuff as well. So thank you again for tuning in tonight. Such a fun show. Thank you to my 2 amazing guests for tuning in. And I want to wish everyone listening and watching, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Have a blessed day tomorrow with the family. Be safe in traveling. And good luck if you go fishing. I'm going to go. Bye, guys. See ya.
Do you fish for excitement? Do you fish for passion?
Do you fish to get outside? Or do you fish to win? Abu Garcia for life. You know, right now where we're standing, we're in Camden, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Philadelphia is right there. This is the concrete jungle. And, you know, a lot of those kids, as they grow up, they don't fish. It's interesting because they're surrounded by water. You know, the Delaware River, the Schuylkill, ponds, city park lakes. But they don't have the influence to cast, to fish, to have a rod and reel. And that became our focus, you know, is to target kids in what we call non-traditional areas, you know, urban areas, city centers, where the population's high, and let these kids have the experience. You know, it's amazing. I mean, some of the experiences we've had, whether it's Central Park in New York City, here in Camden, other parts of the country, even just casting.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to see it, isn't it?
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
And you know, you see these kids have this experience they've never had, and they light up, you know? The big thing, I think, for the Ike Foundation is we're not saying we want all these kids to become professional anglers.
No.
Be great if some of them did, but we want them to have that fishing experience because it ties them to so many other positive things. The outdoors, nature, conservation. Ecology, you know, all these amazing things in life that maybe they wouldn't have been exposed to any other way. We're trying to help with that. So it's important. It's important for us.
Yeah.
We're proud of it.
I subscribe to Bass U TV, and so should you.
Great place to learn about anything you want to know about bass fishing.
You get it at Bass U. We got the best of the best.
I'm not just an instructor, I'm a subscriber.
I'm John Cruz, and I am a subscriber.
You can always learn, and watching Bass U is definitely helps with that. It's something that I like to do, and it's definitely something that you need to do.
If I'm still learning, you should be too.
Subscribe to Bass U because you'll learn how to catch a lot more fish.
Ike Live, brought to you exclusively by Abu Garcia.